The Angel Cartel is regarded by many law enforcement agencies as the most powerful and dangerous criminal organization in New Eden. The main reason for this assignment is the extent and scope of the cartel's criminal activities. While most of the major outlaw factions have operations spread throughout the cluster, the Angel Cartel is notable for the extent to which it has insinuated itself into the core empires, as well as its considerable interest in the outer regions. Few other criminal organizations, for example, could boast for long links with the Minmatar underworld, while at the same time illicitly supplying slaves to the less scrupulous holders of the Amar Empire. When these interests are set next to the cartel's powerful presence in the Galante's illegal drug market and the sinister tendrils it has inserted into the Caldari corporate world, it can be seen as the Angel's reach is long indeed. The Angel Cartel has established itself as a power in the lawless outer regions, in particular the aptly named Curse region, where it controls numerous stations and colonies. The impressive military power of the cartel is perhaps most strikingly illustrated by the fact that it has an entire division, the Guardian Angels, dedicated to protect the interests of the main partner in crime, Serpentis Corporation. The connection with the Serpentis has served to give the Angels a permanent presence in the Fountain regions, making the cartel one of the few criminal organizations to maintain major holdings outside its home region. The Angel Cartel's reputation for ruthlessness and brutality has served to prevent interested parties from scrutinizing the organization's operations too closely. But those who have, perhaps foolishly, made it their business to study the cartel soon learned that it's more than just a mere crime syndicate. The cartel has shown a marked interest in technologies, new and ancient. It has made its headquarters in regions believed to be the home of the First and the Second Jovian empires, and it typically discouraged exploration and inquiry into these domains with a swift and absolute response. All this said, the students of the Angel Cartel, who have survived long enough to put their holds on paper, all agree on one point of note. The Angel Cartel seems to regard capsuleers as its greatest threat, not rival pirate groups, and certainly not the empires. The history of the Angel Cartel is shrouded in mysteries, rumors, and legends, more contradictory and puzzling than most. But what is certain is that the cartel in its current form began to come together sometime in the early period following the formation of Concord in BYC-3. Several accounts mention cartel operations in the Heavens constellation at this time, and the first mention of an angel cartel dated to YC4. It's assumed that the cartel chose its name in reference to the Heaven constellation that would become its headquarters. The origins of the angel cartels prior to the first mention of its name are subject to much speculations and many conflicting theories. The most common accepted account is that the cartel began as a grouping of pirates and scavengers who aimed for, and eventually achieved, dominance over the lawless inhabitants of the Heaven constellation. The constellation and the Curse region as a whole had for a couple of centuries been one of the most attractive destinations for adventurers and freeboaters from the core regions. On the edge of the civilized world, yet relatively accessible, Curse had much to recommend it to those of a mind to rove in search for a lucky strike, or who, just as often, simply wishes to prey on others at that comfortable distance from law and order. The presence of many ruins in the region also suggested a previous domination of a powerful civilization, which some suspected to be a precursor to the recently revealed Jove Empire. It was not long after the first suspicions arose of a Jovian connection with the Curse that the Minmatar rebellion took place, an event which heralded a new influx in refugees, often heavily armed ones, into the region. All semblance of order rapidly broke down as old scores were settled and new conflicts erupted. The most powerful groups began to band together in ever larger cartels and contend for supremacy over Utopia and the Heaven constellation. The Angel Cartel in particular boosted its numbers so much that they went from controlling and developing the Utopia system and Heaven constellation to having an entire region at their mercy. Along the way, they defeated other cartels who have sought to profit from the immigration and absorbed those into their ranks. A few years after it co-sealed, some 10 years after Concord was founded, the Angel Cartel had achieved total control of Utopia and the surrounding systems. From that key position of power, it was not long before the cartel became the unquestioned power in the cursed region. The Angel Cartel, however, did not leave it at that. The position of power began to attract outlaws from the New Eden. Likewise, they sent out forces beyond their home. The Archangel's divisions in particular was asked with this, and are still the most common one to meet outside their home. The initial influx of adventurers of Curse was made up by Amara explorers and renegades of one kind or another, in sparse numbers at that. Nevertheless, it became clear that another civilization had relatively recently occupied the region. To the disappointment of prospective slavers, no remaining inhabitants were found, even where intact structures stood amongst the desolation of the rest of the region. In most cases, the rapidly crumbling ruins were found, as if the withdrawal of civilization itself has triggered a hasty decay. In later decades, and particularly in the century before the Angel Cartels emerged, the population of scavengers and pirates making the cursed region their home became more varied. With many escaped Minmatar, in particular choosing it as a hiding place from the wrath of the Amar Empire. Nevertheless, the first Amar explorers left their mark on the gateway constellation they called Heaven, and its system retained the names the Amar had bestowed on them. In the decades following the Amarians' first contact with the Galente and the Kaldari, adventurous or hunted individuals from those nations found Heaven an attractive destination. First stations began to build, with the Utopia system becoming the natural hub of the constellation. Soon after the Jove made themselves known to the empires, the few remaining archaeological expeditions in Haven Constellation came to the realization that the crumbling civilization that had once called the cursed region home had to be the Jovian. Eventually, evidence amassed that the ruins of the lost civilization in the cursed region were indeed Jovian, and that the artifacts recovered dated back to the first and the second Jove empires. It is to this day hard to say just how much the angels uncovered, and they remain tight-lipped about their discoveries. Publicly, they will often downplay the role that Jovian technology might have played in their own rise to power. But what is certain is that the design of their ships bears a remarkable resemblance that of the Jove. However, practically, these hulls perform more alike to the Minmatar ships, being fast, agile, and packing a lot of punch. It is unclear if this ship design is a preference that has served the Angels well, or if they adapted what they knew due to lack of actual valuable technology left behind. Alternatively, they have suggested that much Jove technology is likely so advanced that the Angels were not able to even operate it. Suggesting this, though, is far more upsetting to the Cartel than the implication that their technology is stolen. In the centuries since it achieved control of the Curse, the Angel Cartel has rapidly grown in power and currently is, without question, the most feared criminal organization in New Eden. One of the organization's most important moments came in YC-75, when it struck deal with the Serpentis Corporation to provide protection in exchange for access to the Serpentis stations and research. This deal turned out to be so mutually beneficial that the Guardian Angels, once tasked with R&D, became security specialists for the Serpentis Corporation, and their former responsibilities were passed on to the Salvation Angels division instead. Stations were erected in each other's respective home regions as well, making it so that both are special in having stations not only at the heart of their seat of power, but also on the other side of the cluster. This has given both organizations strategic advantages in having multiple staging points spread wisely around the edges of the New Eden cluster. The deal with the Serpentis also brought the Cartel into its first major conflict with another faction. Guardian Angel force clashed with Mordu's Legion when the latter made an incursion into Serpentis Prime in YC-106. The incident is yet another unsolved mystery in the history of the Cartel, but it's speculated to have involved research into highly advanced technology. In YC-106, it was Mordu's Legion that embarrassed the Guardian Angels when the former led incursion into the fountain. Muria Mordu himself led the operation, and Guardian Angels commanders Bryn Yerdola and Setil Shalan took to the field to chase him and his troops back out. The conflict has been a tactical cat-and-mouse game until they arrived. Even during the ensuing battle, the Legion suffered only minimal losses and caused the Cartel forces to retreat and regroup. During this, however, Mordu ordered his own fleet to return home. It is unknown if the Legion got what it came for, or if they simply felt they were outnumbered in Serpentis' home turf. Luckily for the Angels, they did not jeopardize their relationships with the Serpentis, and the lesson learned from this incursion were put to use to strengthen the perimeters against any other unwanted invaders. In mid-YC-108, the Angel Cartel found itself in the defense against the long-time regional enemy Sanja Nations, the latter based in the nearby Stein region. Major attacks by Sanja's Nations forces against Cartel's holdings in the Impas and Faithabolis region marked not only an unsure resurgence in nation activity, but also an escalation of the two outlaws' factions' rivalry into open war. The events of this period of warfare between the Angels and the Sanja's Nation also saw an uncharacteristic reliance by the cartels on Capsuleer's allies. Speculation suggested that Sanja Nation's incursions into the cartel space were aiming to seize ancient technologies uncovered by the Angels. What is remarkable about this conflict is that the cartels called upon the help of Capsuleers to drive the invader forces back. Indeed, it seems that the Domination's diplomat Xavier Kuhn had been contacted with the then sovereignty-holding alliance Ascendant Frontiers for a while already. Eager to prove their worth and might to both the cartel and the nation, they deployed in full force alongside the cartel. While at first it seems that the nation had the upper hand, the Capsuleers turned the tide and ultimately destroyed the Sanja Nation's fleet in full, with only some minor losses. They even went as far as take out the pass that the nation had developed as a staging base. While the conflict died down after that, the Angels maintained a very hostile attitude towards Sanja's Nation. Two of the most notable incidents in recent history involving the Angel Cartel took place in YC-110. The first incident, in January that year, was astonishing mainly for its revelation of the weakness of the Kaldar state at the time. The Secure Commands Commission investigators revealing evidence of the Angel Cartel's infiltration and financial backing of several Kaldari corporations. The second incident demonstrated just how brazen the cartel could be, as it invaded and occupied the Skarkan system of the Minmatar Republic in May YC-110. Itsukame was a Kaldari corporate startup who made headlines in YC-109, when they subsequently poached high-profile researcher Dr. Grant Aratka from Laidai, and announced an important breakthrough in the use of unstable wormholes for transport technology. This attracted the attention of the SEC, as improving the capabilities of mobile jump bridges is classified as military technology. During the routine work to grant Itsukame an exclusive patent to produce this technology, it was found that they had received substantial financial aid from various corporations with ties to or acting as a front for the Angel Cartel. This further implies that the cartel was acted as a silent partner and that Itsukame was thus in part of their control. This is a direct violation of the SEC regulations and led to an escalating court battle between the Kaldar state and the SEC. After seizing substantial amount of data from the Itsukame and an investigation that lasted well into the YC-1110, it was discovered that as much as 20 Kaldari corporations were impacted. While most were small, Zainu Biotech was one big name that stood out. They, however, pointed out that anyone can invest in their publicly traded stock and that they were the victims here, content with what they had still achieved, especially as this has put the state and Concord at odds. The Angels withdrew their money and shut down the uncovered fronts, no doubt sending everything right over to the next scheme. Shortly before YC-110, collapse of the Minmatar Republic's government, the Archangels claimed democratic sovereignty over the Skarkan system. The Skarkan crisis carried on throughout May and June, with the Minmatar Republic apparently powerless to do anything about the Cartel's occupation. Local inhabitants indeed appeared to favor the Cartel both in their comments and in an apparently free and fair referendum held by the Angels. The inhabitants of Skarkan too, dissatisfied with the falling promises of the Midular government to clean up this dangerous system, sided with the Archangels in a 10 million signature petition, as well as during the system-wide referendum being so close to curse, the Angels had evidently been growing their influence over the local population for a long time. The Skarkan crisis was one of several incidents cited during the vote of no confidence in the emergency parliament session by Republic Parliament Maliatu Chakor in June. Ultimately, coincidentally, with the Skarkmanir discovery, the Cartel withdrew with haste and informed Concord that all claims were now to be considered void and resigned. While Concord now considered the situation resolved, many kept discussing what could have caused this strange turn of events. No official word by the Cartel was however given. They simply carried on their business as if they had gotten what they wanted out of that affair. Today, the Angel Cartel remains as powerful, fearsome, and enigmatic as it has been throughout its history. Few in New Eden will lightly cross the Cartel, and even the most capable criminals know better than to challenge its control of the black market throughout much of the cluster. Even so, it remains the case that perhaps the most disturbing aspect of the Cartel is its pursuit of hidden knowledge and lost technologies. The true purpose of the Cartels are as covert as the identities of its famously anonymous leadership. The Angel Cartel's culture famously emphasizes loyalty and discipline above everything else. The absolute requirement for all Cartel members is that they act first and foremost in the interest of the Cartel. Everything else, including their lives, is secondary to this, and deviation from Cartel's disciplines are understood to be punished. The Cartel is also known to be unconcerned with the racial origins of its members, considering that anyone can join the Cartel as long as they accept its discipline. Anecdotal evidence suggests that the Cartel has a significant portion of members from Amarian and Minmatar bloodlines. Its large membership includes many of Kaldari and Galenti origin too. From the evidence of recovered bodies, surveillance imagery, and the few known Angel captured alive, it has been established that the Cartel has a culture of tattooing where markings signify certain achievements, memberships, and subgroups or ranks. The practice appeared to be a very degraded form of Minmatar tattooing. As far as criminal activity is concerned, the Angel Cartel is indiscriminate. So as long as an activity is illegal and can turn a profit, the Cartel will happily take its due part in it. Of note here is the very strong cultural prohibition against profiting from illegal activities. This prohibition is so strong that it is one of the few details of Cartel's culture to have been credibly established beyond all doubt. Full members of the Cartel apparently disdain legal commerce so strongly that it is against their code to engage in it. As a result, the Cartel has much expertise in corrupting others into carrying out such legal transactions as it finds necessary. The Cartel also appears to take delight in making apparently legal activities illegal through various devices, thereby allowing themselves to profit according to the codes of honor. The Angel Cartel is not above preying on other criminal organizations. Indeed, this is one of its major activities within the core empires. Angel Cartel's activities are known to include drugs, weapon smuggling, slaving, piracy, colony raiding, and many other forms of large-scale criminality. The Angel Cartel's top leadership is marked by one characteristic above all others: secrecy. The identities of those who sit at the top of the Cartel, the supreme leaders of the dominations divisions, are closely guarded. How many they number is unknown, although such investigations as have been carried out have strongly referred that the leadership does number more than just one man or woman who wields all power. Even that inference may simply have been allowed to exist as yet another smokescreen. The truth is that very few people know the truth, and they are all among the Cartel's most fanatical, loyal members. Aside from their dominations, however, many divisional leaders and subcommanders can be found throughout the Cartel's quasi-military structure. Every angel answers to someone who ranks higher in the organization, and every angel is to some extent trained to lead. This is not least because of the leadership role the angels often arrogate themselves in local criminal networks. The identities of those who administer the Cartel divisions, such as Thrald Rukenda, as of the dominations, are at least known, but it's certain they report to the hidden masters of the Angel Cartel. Even though its absolute nature is unique, the Angel Cartel's leadership practices secrecy that extend throughout all aspects of the Cartel's operations and is a strong influence on the subsidiary leaders. An Angel Cartel subcommander will be a master of misdirection and subterfuge. Many other law enforcement agents who have captured a local Cartel leader, they actually have a ridiculous dupe on their hands. The cardinal law of the Cartel has also been seen to operate with a total ruthlessness when a real leader has been captured. In almost every case, the Cartel has successfully carried out assassination of captured commanders or cell leaders they could not recover. Those few who the authorized have managed to protect have suffered mind wipes, apparently brought on by self-triggered hypnotic implantation. The domination know well that the oath of silence cannot stand up to modern interrogation techniques and clearly demand special safeguards from the leaderships. The Archangels are the largest divisions of the Angel Cartel and are the most commonly seen in space. They constitute the main force taking part in piracy, smuggling and raiding. Like all the main Cartel divisions, the Archangels uses a range of distinctive ships known throughout New Eden for speed, firepower and durability. The novelty and uniqueness of Cartel ships' design makes any wonder as to their origin, but the Archangels are certainly not revealing anything. Archangels' installation can be found in Curse Fountain, and their forces can be found patrolling 12 regions of south and east of New Eden, from Faith Abolis to Catch. The Archangels are so prevalent and large in size that some of the subdivisions, such as the Gisti fighters, has become well known. The Guardian Angels are the next major division of the Angel Cartel, tasked with protecting Serpentis operations across New Eden, but particularly in Fountain and the neighboring regions where Serpentis' influence is felt the most. Guardian forces are so closely integrated with the Serpentis Corporation's own formidable military that many who encounter them assume their forces to be a part of Serpentis' organization. The relationship between the Angel Cartel and Serpentis is indeed very close, but the Guardian Angels' first loyalty is to the Cartel. For their part, the Serpentis are under no illusions on this point. Guardian Angels are less wedded to the unique technologies used by the Cartel than the Archangels, and can often be seen using Serpentis equipment. This very likely stems from a combination of convenience and the Cartel's typical reluctance to share its secrets, even with so close an ally as Serpentis. The Salvation Angels are an old division of the Cartel that trace their origin back to the scavenging days of the nascent Angel Cartel. A largely non-combat division, the Salvation Angels are nonetheless a key element in the Cartel, responsible for building and maintaining ships, stations, and other facilities. The Salvation Angels are rather notorious within the Cartel for their tendency to interfere with the operations of other divisions, but they are tolerated mainly due to their essential role. The division is responsible for all resource extraction, salvaging, and refining work, as well as logistic, supply for operations and installations. The Salvation Angels are also routinely involved in mop-up operations, where they salvage from wrecks from friend or foe. Occasionally, they live up to their name by rescuing survivors from the wrecks of cartel ships, another reason why Angels tends to be more amused by the prying of the slavies than anyone else. The Dominations are the command divisions of the Angel Cartel and are both enigmatic and elusive. Domination's ships are very rarely ventured beyond their bases in Curse, though they do maintain a presence in the Phoenix constellation. No doubt to keep an eye on both the Guardian Angels and the Serpentis. While the Domination division evidently consists of an extensive staff, with this several stations and a support fleet, the actual leaders of the Angel Cartel is never seen in person by anyone other than perhaps a select few personnel. Absolute secrecy as to the identities of the top leaders of the cartel has been maintained by the Dominations for a century. This secrecy naturally fuels speculations as to the cartel's true purposes. Whatever the reason for their fanatical devotions to hiding their identities, the Domination's leadership has no intention of allowing the wheel to slip. From time to time, the cartel finds it convenient to set up other divisions for specific purposes. These divisions may or may not have formal names, but in general, they report directly to the Dominions. It is possible that such divisions are either functionally named or perhaps are known by the name of their leader. Since many of these divisions are engaged in covert activity, it is likely that many are simply given code names. Renegade Amar and escaped Minmatar were amongst the first to join the ranks of Angel Cartel, and has always been prominent within it. Just as Curse has always had the interest of all the races, so has the Cartel never discriminated in its recruitment. This has helped them to become the largest and most powerful criminal organization within New Eden. If there is a profit in something, the cartel probably is involved in it. By virtue of its origins, the earliest form of income for the cartel was mining. To this day, ore, ice, and gas form the foundation of industry, and are thus in continued demand. The Salvation Angels specialize in ninja mining, the practice of extracting high-value ore in nimble ships that can escape at the slightest sign of a threat. With capsuleers now roaming all corners of space, this is a necessary precaution. However, in areas where they are less likely to be found, or that simply are safe enough to operate normally in, dedicated bases are formed to maximize profit. Naturally, the Angels are not above hijacking loads of ore or other valuable resources from legit miners to funnel through their industry or smuggling operations. Due to offer and demand and the fat wallets of those who desiring them, luxury goods always carry a hefty price markup. This has caused the cartel to specialize in cultivation, extraction, and producing of those. Smuggling happens in a variety of ways. From quick, agile, cloaking-capable vessels to hiding things amongst other cargo, or simply forging documents that would make the transport appear legal. Goods range in shape and sizes, and as per cartel habit, people and animals fall under that cargo too. The business connection that the Angel Cartel has built up prove invaluable to their smuggling operations, and their best relations are known to call up on the network when they need it, as it is one of the best out there. The Angel Cartel benefits from employing slaves as cheap labor. The slaves trades in itself also brings in a tidy sum. It is then no surprise that this extends into prostitution, brothels, and production of X-rated hollow reels. And like with Armar, slavery is a purely economic affair. Slaves owned by the cartel are generally well taken care of. For those who find themselves in good standing, the cartel is willing to bargain some of its technological developments. Many pilots view outlaw technology as an acceptable edge, especially when Concord does not disapprove of ownership or use thereof. While the Angels are smart enough to keep the best things to themselves, they certainly realize how lucrative supplying both capsuleers and common people with their goods can be. Black market across the cluster also seemed to carry a steady supply of Cartel branded items. While its own ships are unique creations, the Guardian Angels combined their own technology with that of the Gallente when developing a fleet setup for the Serpentis. This was done because many Serpentis pilots already had extensive experience in flying Gallente hulls in the past. The Daredevil is somewhat of an exception here. It's a modified Dramiel hull that was chosen to serve as the base for a ship. This was by express order of Sarpati, who admired the sleek yet intimidating aesthetics of the Dramiel design. All of the Cartel's own design bear Jovian influences, and it is said that the Macario is even directly based on an old Jovian design. The technology used in each hull is, however, distinctly their own. From the very beginning, the focus of ancient Cartel fleet has been on speed and superior firepower, to which the designs lend themselves well, in addition to looking the part. The Angel Cartel hulls are the Dramiel, the Cinnabal, and the Macariel, and the Serpentis hulls are the Daredevil, Vigilant, and Vindicator. Production on both Cartel and Serpentis ships falls on the Salvation Angels, whom also do continued research and development for them. I will now tell you a few notable characters: Bryn Yerdola and Setili Shellan. Respectively, the Chief Scout and the Chief of Operation of the Guardian Angels, Bryn and Setil, are two of only a few Cartel division leaders known to have engaged in combat in space. The two led the Guardian Angels' response to the Mordu Legion's incursions into Serpentis Prime in August of YC-106. While they ultimately failed to stop the Mordu force from escaping, they appeared to have themselves escape sensor, remaining in command position of the Guardian Angels. Xavier Kuhn, one of the few Cartel's figures to have openly spoken in public and directly to Capsuleers, Xavier Kuhn was considered to be the main diplomat of Angel Cartel during the period of intense and open warfare between the Sunshine Nations and the Angel Cartel in YC-108. Commander Origin, an apparent Angel Cartel renegade. The individual known as Commander Origin led Cartel forces in a takeover of the Minmatar Republic Konora system in July YC-111. While the incident had echoes of the Skarkan crisis, the situation in Konora escaped rapidly, and there were massacres when pro-Republic protesters were killed by Angel troops. The fate of Commander Origin was never satisfactorily established. Thrald Vukenda, as CEO of the Dominations, Thrald Vukenda is seen by many as the administrative head of the Angel Cartel. In reality, while he is uncertainly a powerful figure, he has no authority over the other main divisions. Gutan Kreis. Gutan Kreis is the head of the Domination's internal security and is responsible for the internal security of the Cartel in a wider sense. While she has no mandate to interfere directly with the other Cartel divisions, she is respected and feared throughout the organization. Her views on matters of Cartel internal security leave a little room for argument. Kim Stormare. Akim Stormare is a scoundrel and a rogue of Intaki ancestry that roamed New Eden for decades before entering the service of the Dominations as their chief of security actions. Misuro Subon. Misuro Subon, chief of operations for the Dominions, has a certain air of vulnerability about her petite body that she notoriously plays on in her effort to get her way. In reality, she is as resilient and sharp as a coil of a razor wire. Anyone she ensnares in her schemes is sure to regret the experience if they survive it. And Tobias Crusor. Tobias Crusor, known throughout the Cartel as Reis, is the right hand of the man of Thrald Vukenda. Some consider Reis to be the real power behind Vukenda, as he keeps all enemies at bay and any friends of Vukenda in check. Again, it is highly unlikely that such a well-known figure is really one of the true leaders of the Cartel. Having said that, one theory gaining some currency in recent years suggests that The hidden masters are an elaborate ploy, hiding a truth that is kept in plain sight of everyone. I hope you guys enjoyed the story of the Angel Cartel, and if you would like to have more, tell me that in the comments, and I'll see you again.